Hi, in today's video I'm going to tell you all about how to solve cryptic crosswords. There are three key areas I'm going to cover in this video. Firstly, the structure of clues, secondly, the clue types, and thirdly, which crosswords to start on and how. Firstly, the structure of clues. Cryptic crossword clues are structured very differently to regular crossword clues. If you don't know this and try and solve a cryptic crossword, it's really easy to feel super lost. To understand how to solve a cryptic crossword clue, it's useful to understand what non-cryptic crossword clues are like. Non-cryptic crossword clues are typically definitions or synonyms. For example, piece 12 could be tranquility. However, there can often be multiple possible solutions to any given normal crossword clue. For example, a three-letter farm animal could be a cow or a pig, and there are many possible definitions of set that are 5 letters long. This can make regular crosswords quite difficult to fill in because you can't be completely sure that you've got the right answer straight away. On the other hand, cryptic crossword clues typically give you 2 ways to get to the answer, so you can be pretty sure that you've got the right word. The 2 components of a cryptic crossword clue are the definition, which is what you might put for the whole of a non-cryptic clue, for example, piece, farm animal, set, and then the wordplay, which is the clever way of getting to the answer. This could be an anagram, a homophone. There's loads of different cryptic crossword clue types that I'm going to go through later. There's usually an indicator for what type of clue it is, which helps you get to the answer. So if we know that a cryptic crossword clue consists of definition and wordplay, how can we tell which bit is which? There's a couple of things that can help. Firstly, we know that the definition must always be at the start or the end of the clue. It can't be somewhere in the middle. There may also be a word indicating whereabouts the split is in the clue between the wordplay and the definition. So let's say that the definition is care and the wordplay is an anagram of race. So the clue could be structured anagram of race for care, or care in anagram of race, or anagram of race gives care. It could not be anagram for care comes from race, because care would be in between the wordplay elements. It's perhaps easiest to see this through examples, and I'm going to show you examples through each of the main clue types found in cryptic crosswords. There are lots and lots of different types of wordplay that can be used in a cryptic crossword clue. Sometimes you get multiple types of wordplay within a single clue. The list on the left is the most straightforward types of wordplay, whilst the ones on the right have slightly more of a pizzazz to them. I'm going to start going through each of the clue types on the left, giving you an idea of how they're put together, typical indicators, and then going through an example. Harbouring a dream of becoming a setter, that is, someone who makes cryptic crosswords, I've come up with all of the examples in this presentation myself. We're starting with anagrams, one of the most common clue types. In anagram clues, an indicator will tell you to take the letters from some words and mix them together to find the answer. These clues will typically have an indicator suggesting mixing things up, or change. Could be muddled, drunk, confused, working, addled, baffled, mixed up, anything like that. To work out whether an anagram is being used in the clue, it can be quite useful to count letters and compare it to the number of letters you know are in the answer. Here's a quick example. Terrain, ruined, shoe. 7 letters. I encourage you to pause the video now and have a think before clicking through to my explanation of the answer. The same for all other clues in this video. I use a slash throughout to denote the break between the wordplay and the definition. Here, the wordplay is on the left and the definition on the right. The word ruined is here being used as an anagram indicator, telling us that if we mix up all the letters in the word terrain, we'll get a word that means shoe. When I'm solving clues that I suspect to be anagrams, I find it useful to write out the letters to be anagrammed in a different order to the one they're found in the original word. If I look for long enough, I can see the word trainer, which is a type of shoe. The next type of clue we're going to look at is containers. In container clues, one set of letters is placed inside another set of letters. For example, if we placed AR inside CD, we would get card. The indicator for this type of clue will typically suggest either putting something inside something else, for example, A is eaten by B, A is wrapped by B, buried by B, or putting something around something else. For example, B eats A, B wraps A, B buries A. Let's try an example. Commotion put you and me in fire station. 4 letters. So here the definition is commotion, and the wordplay is telling us to put letters for you and me inside letters for fire station. You and me is us, and a very common abbreviation for fire station is FS. So if we put US into FS, we get fuss, which is another word for commotion. The next clue type is deletions. In deletion clues, an indicator will tell you to take some letters away from another set of letters or words. There are several different things that can be deleted. For example, the start of the word. If you took a cross and removed its head, you would get cross. Other indicators for removing the start of a word could be first off or lost its edge, which could also apply to the end of words. You could remove the middle of words, the start and end of words, or even every other letter in words, or some other bizarre pattern. Let's try an example. Elizabeth is sporty at heart. 4. Here, Elizabeth is the definition. Sporty is the word containing letters to be deleted, and at heart indicates that we delete some letters. At heart means we take the middle of the word, so we're going to delete the first and last letters. This clue type could also be called letter selection, which we'll come on to later. So if we remove the sides of sporty, we get port. Elizabeth is a famous port in South Africa. I chose to include this clue because I don't expect the majority of listeners to have heard of Port Elizabeth. I certainly hadn't until I devised the clue. However, the joy of cryptics is that you don't have to know the answer or even have heard that the word exists to get to the solution, because you've always got those 2 opportunities, the definition and the wordplay. The next clue type we're going to look at is hidden word. In hidden word clues, the answer is hidden within a set of words. That is, if you read from left to right, or potentially right to left, through the clue, you would literally find the solution written out. These clues often have an indicator suggesting that something is within something else. Think displaying, part of, hiding. This type of clue is less common in crosswords. You might get 1, perhaps, per crossword that you do. Let's try an example. Tapas takeaway includes Italian dish. 5. Here the definition is Italian dish, with the word includes indicating that we have to look for the Italian dish within the words tapas takeaway. If we look into the middle of tapas takeaway, we find pasta. Pasta is an Italian dish, and therefore our solution. Note that here, if you said tapas takeaway out loud, you never actually say pasta, you would say paste. This is often the case. They don't always have the clue so that you could read it out loud and say the answer. On the other hand, in homophone clues, you can literally say the answer out loud, but it won't be written down in front of you. In these clues, the wordplay alludes to something that sounds like the answer. For example, there are different spellings of bear. The clue might lead you to think of one type of bear, perhaps the grizzly kind. Also, the definition might be naked or something like that, suggesting B-A-R-E. These clues typically have an indicator suggesting that something should be said out loud or heard, such as announced by the sound of it on the radio, broadcast, something like that. Let's try this. Animal sounded croaky, 6 letters. Here, the word sounded is telling us that if we find a word that means animal or a type of animal, say it out loud, we'll be saying a word that could also mean croaky. One type of animal is horse. If we say that out loud, it could also be horse with an A in it, which is like when a person has a rough and croaky voice. As with many crossword clues, the clue attempts to put a different image into your head, in this case, that of a frog. One of the most important things to learn to be able to do with cryptic crossword clues is to abstract yourself from what the words actually say as a whole into their separate components, and use that to get to the solution. The best crossword clues will put a totally different image into your head. The next type of clue is letter selection, which to me is pretty much exactly the same as deletion. Instead of removing letters, here you're selecting letters, which to me means that you have to remove letters. As with deletions, you can get the letters from many places: the start, middle or end of words, start and end, every other letter in words. Here's a rather straightforward clue. Fruit for starters: apricots, pineapples, pears, limes, elderberries. 5 letters. Unsurprisingly, the letter selection indicator here is for starters, with fruit being the definition and apricots, pineapples, pears, limes and elderberries being the words to select letters from. If we take the first letter from each of these random fruit, we get apple, which is a fruit, and so is our answer. In easier cryptics, you'll often find one fairly straightforward letter selection type, for example first letters. Harder cryptics often have much more devious letter selection indicators. Moving on to the penultimate clue type in this section, reversals. In reversal clues, one set of letters is put backwards to give the solution. The letters to be reversed may be found written out in the clue, or a synonym might be used. So if the answer was tab, the clue may contain the word bat, or it could contain winged creature, which you'd have to convert into bat and then flip backwards. Indicators could be anything suggesting reversing something or flipping it, like sent back, going north, upset. For example, backwards boy is hooligan, gives you yob, with backwards indicating that you flip boy over to give you yob, another word for hooligan. Let's try this. Black liquid sent rat in a spin. Let's try this. Rat went head over heels in black liquid. 3. Here rat is the word to reverse, as indicated by went head over heels, and black liquid is the definition. Like I said earlier in this video, the word in denotes the split between the wordplay and the definition, in this instance. So if we flip rat over, we get tar, which is a thick black liquid. Tar is also a word meaning sailor, which is good knowledge to have for cryptic crosswords because sailors often come up. Sailor can also be abbreviated to AB, which stands for able-bodied, something I've seen in lots of crosswords. The last clue type is Spoonerism. In Spoonerism clues, corresponding sets of letters from 2 words are swapped around. For example, dig pen would go to pig den, with the first 2 letters being switched. The words to be spoonerised are themselves clued. For example, love cage would go to dig pen, because love would be to dig and a cage is to pen, like to cage in animals. And then you'd have to spoonerise that to get your answer, pig den. These clues are very easy to spot because they're always indicated by the word spooner. However, they're very rare. I think in my years of solving, I've seen maybe a handful of them. I've probably seen the word spooner used more as a distraction technique, where, for example, you're meant to take the first letter rather than do a spoonerism, than as a spoonerism itself. I spent a while this morning trying to come up with an example of spoonerism. I'm not sure I did the best job, but here goes. Parents are tight-lipped and angry, according to Spooner. 333. I've been slightly naughty here and slipped in a homophone. Here, parents are the definition, tight-lipped and angry are the words to spoonerise, and according to Spooner is the spoonerism indicator. So first we need to think of synonyms for tight-lipped and angry. Here, dumb, as in not to speak, tight-lipped, and mad, as in angry, are the answers. Here, if we spoonerise dumb and mad, and apply a little homophone, as per according to, we get mum and dad. I remember when I was a kid, we definitely ran around chanting mum and dad are dumb and mad. I'm sure I didn't anticipate using that saying in a video on how to solve cryptic crosswords many years later. On to the second half of the list, and the more slightly risque clues. Charade, double definition, cryptic definition, and lit clues. Charade clues are clues containing a few different clue types, or clues that are made up of lots of different pieces. In charade clues, several individually clued pieces are put together to form the answer. There isn't usually an indicator for a charade clue as a whole per se, but you might get indicators telling you the order in which you should place different components, for example follows, headed by, after. Charade clues often use abbreviations to form parts of the answer. There's loads and loads of sources of abbreviation, more than I could put here, and it would take many pages to include even just a fraction of them. But I've given a few examples of types of abbreviation here below. You could have Roman numerals, such as I for the word 1, L for 50, C for 100. Any letters from the NATO alphabet, for example C for Charlie. Cricket terms like C for court or O for over. Or chemical elements like Cu for copper, Au for gold, Ag for silver. You tend to pick these up as you do more crosswords. For example, batting, popular, at home can all translate to the letters IN, in. Let's try this. Left old paper upstairs, 4 letters. Here, left old paper are all charade components, and upstairs is the definition. Left gives you an L, as in right and left, with right potentially being an R. Old is an O, new could be an N. You often see Bible books like OT and NT, Old Testament and New Testament. Bible can also be AV, which would be authorized version. And then paper, in this case the FT, i.e. the Financial Times. Put them all together and you get loft, another word for the very upstairs of a house. Double definition clues are another type of clue. They're often formed of 2 definitions for the same word. The solutions are typically words with more than one meaning, and in the past I found that these clues tend to have slightly shorter solutions with fewer letters in. One example could be prison toilet, 3 letters. Here the answer is can, with can being slang for both prison and toilet. Try this second one. She loves reading and devours novels, 8 letters. The answer here is bookworm. A bookworm is someone who loves reading, and bookworms are those annoying little insects that eat your books, i.e. devour novels. The next 2 types of clues are much rarer. They're cryptic definition and lit clues. Cryptic definition clues consist of a clever definition only. That is, they're constructed to put an image into the solver's head, which has got nothing to do with the solution. Only through shifting their viewpoint can the solver get to a solution. They may be indicated by a question mark at the end of the clue. Whilst I wasn't witty enough to come up with a cryptic definition clue myself this morning, I can recall one from a while ago that I read online. It was, at first read, appearing to say, London flower, 6 letters. Of course, at second read you realise it says London flower, which is a river, i.e. the Thames. It's only through changing from your initial perception of the clue that you can get to an answer. In my experience as a solver, these clues are either a lot of fun and very satisfying to solve, or they fall quite flat. The sister of cryptic definitions are lit clues, where lit stands for and literally. Whilst most clues consist of a separate definition and wordplay, in lit clues the wordplay is the definition, perhaps indicated by an exclamation mark at the end of the clue. Again, I couldn't think of a brilliant clue this morning, but this one came out just before I was about to shut off. Tapoot, 6, 6. The answer here would be mashed potato, with tapoot being a mashed up version of potato. Lit clues are all very different, and as with cryptic definitions, they're either satisfying or a bit disappointing. Perhaps this clue is a good example of that. So I've told you a lot about the structure of clues and clue types, but how should you tackle your first cryptic crossword? Firstly, make sure you start on the right cryptic crossword. There's actually a huge difference in cryptic crossword difficulty within and across newspapers. A great place to start is the easier cryptic that you get in many newspapers, for example, the Times Quick Cryptic, which can be found in the Times 2 section, and the Guardian Cryptic, which is online, published every Monday. The same crossword can also get harder as the week gets on, so Monday's crossword is probably the place to start. There's also a big variation in style within and across newspapers. Within newspapers, different setters have different styles. Some newspapers, like the Telegraph, don't publish the name of the setter, whereas others, like the Times, do. And from that you can get an idea of what the clues will be like. For example, certain setters may have a strong preference for anagrams, others may use a lot of cryptic or lit style clues. I learnt to solve using a mixture of the Telegraph and the Times, and I found it fairly easy to apply those techniques to solving Guardian clues, but very difficult with attempting, for example, the Metro. I recommend a 3-step approach for first-time solvers. First, give the cryptic crossword your best shot. You can time box this, say, I'm going to sit down and have a go at this crossword for 20 minutes, half an hour, and see where I get to. Set your expectations fairly low. Chances are, if it's the first cryptic crossword you've come across, you're going to struggle. If you expect to finish the grid in 10 minutes, you're probably going to find yourself frustrated and disappointed. Whereas if you just pick away at clues until you find one that works for you, you can get to a really satisfying point where you've got a few answers in. Then step 2, I'd actually look at the solution and see if you can work out how to get to each answer from each clue. This can be a really good way to get to grips with the structure of clues that indicators often use and learn a whole load of new acronyms. Thirdly, I'd look online for explanations of the solutions that you didn't get to yourself. You'll often pick up tricks or abbreviations you didn't know before. If you just type in the clue, a few websites will come up, many of which will give you an explanation of how the clue leads to the answer. A great website for this is 15 Squared. That's the end of my video on how to solve cryptic crosswords. I hope that if you've made it here, you found this video helpful. Please feel free to share any of your own tips and tricks in the comments below. I'm certainly very keen to learn from you. Happy solving!